So you can follow along, but we're in the book of Genesis, and we've been this whole. I still think of life in terms of semesters, So since September, we've been in the book of Genesis, and there are some crazy stories in the book of Genesis. I used to think when I was in high school, I would go into Sunday school. And literally, there'd be like 5 of us, and I remember being so bored, I would fall asleep when there's like 5 people. The teacher's sitting like right next to me, and I'm like, So I thought the Bible was so boring, but then I actually started to read it, and I realized that there are some incredible stories in this book. And so if the Bible is a stranger to you, then you're missing out on some awesome stories. So we're going to look at one of them today. We've been going through the story of Joseph. And this is not Mary and Joseph. This is not Jesus' papa, Joseph. This is Joseph, son of Jacob, okay? Different Joseph. Last week Corey shared kind of the first part of that chronicle, and I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to, let's see here. How am I going to do this? I need some... Okay. I'm going to tell this story from a different perspective, okay? It may be a perspective that you know. If you're new to the story, then just sit back. I hope you don't expect too much. I hope that's not spelled backwards. Okay, I got to crunch those together here. Maybe. No, don't want to cover that up. So Joseph had brothers. Okay? Good morning. My name's Judah. Just so there's no confusion, you can see my name. Can everybody read that? The whole full panorama view. Your leaders asked me to come share my story with you this morning, and it's kind of a long story. I'll try to make it shorter if I can. But if you don't know me, you might know my dad. His name's Jacob. If you don't know my dad, Jacob, some people don't know him, then you might know Isaac or Abraham, my grandpa, and great-grandpa. So Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, me, and my 12 brothers and 1 sister. I am the 4th oldest, so it goes Reuben, Simeon, Levi, me. Our mom is Leah, and any multiple sibling families here? Yeah, okay. My heart goes out to you. Mine was a little complicated, even more so. My dad, he was a ladies' man, apparently. He kind of got around, but he was pretty committed. So amongst the 12 brothers and 1 sister that I have, there's 4 moms. So, and I don't even want to start to tell you all the nieces and nephews that I have. I lost count after 50. It's not even funny. But basically, a lot of kids, and I don't know if I was thinking about this the other day. If I could go back to anywhere in time, I want to tell you about where I would go back to. It was a day, me and my brothers, we were shepherds, and we would go out far from home, and we would watch the flocks, as my dad told us to. And one day, our second youngest brother, Joseph, we were far from home. He was coming towards us. We could see him way off. And he was like Dad's errand boy. And he was different because he was one of Rachel's sons. My mom's Leah, and there was Bilhah and Zilpah, and so we were all us 10 oldest brothers were born through those 3 women. But then Rachel was my dad's favorite wife. And took her a really long time, but she eventually had a boy named Joseph. And I remember when he was born, because I had never seen my dad so happy. I'd never seen him so full of pride, so full of joy. He'd already had 10 sons, but it was like his 11th son was his first. It was like this was a brand new experience for him, like he'd never, just the way that he rocked him back and forth, the way that he held him. He was the son that my dad had been waiting for. Joseph was the son he never had. So naturally, as Joseph grows up, we're all much older than him. At least most of us. We didn't like him because he resembled everything that we were not. He resembled everything that, all of our insufficiencies, all the ways that we let Dad down, all the ways that we weren't good enough. He was Dad's favorite, and it was no secret. He treated him special. He treated him different than all the rest of us. So one day, as he's coming toward us, we're way away from home. There's no one around. He's coming toward us, and we start to make jokes, which was not an uncommon thing. We did not like him. He would say things like you know when people don't know their place, and they come in and they try to like tell you stuff. You know, he didn't mean anything by it, but he'd be like, "Hey guys, I had this crazy dream where you were all bowing down to me." You know, you just don't say stuff like that. Even if it happens, like you got to know when to keep your mouth shut. And he did not. I mean, he did not know how to do that. You know, he wasn't full of himself. He just was different. Everything that we wanted, he already had. He had Dad's approval. He had a great relationship with him, and we longed for that. And so before he came along, we were all competing for that. But he didn't seem to care about that, and so he would just speak his mind, and he didn't know the consequences. So he's coming toward us, and we start to make fun of him. And the jokes quickly get worse and worse, to the point that, hey, maybe we can put this dreamer to sleep for good, people started saying. And hey, you know, we're pretty far away from home. What if something happened? What if this dreamer never made it home? And before too long, we actually started talking about the logistics of what it would look like for that to actually happen. What would it look like for us to dump our brother? To be rid of the one who would always remind us that we weren't good enough. That we weren't the chosen one. That we weren't the son. We weren't the sons that he'd always wanted. And so, as he came, one of us, I can't even remember who it was so long ago, he hid behind a rock, and as Joseph's coming through, he just barreled him. And he pushed him down. He ripped this really nice robe that our dad had made for him. He ripped it right off him. And Simeon came up and grabbed him by the collar and was about to clock him in the face when Reuben, our oldest brother, who had been off a ways, he came up and he grabbed Simeon's fist and he pushed him away. He said, don't touch him. And we said, no, this is it. We've had enough. We're done with this idiot, with this kid, thinking that he can run the show. And so Reuben, realizing that he was vastly outnumbered by the rest of us, convinced us not to kill him, at least for now, but he convinced us to throw him in a pit. And so we threw him in this pit, and he didn't even really plea. He didn't make a defense for himself, but we're all sitting there eating lunch, laughing, joking. Who's bowing to who now, Joseph? You really think your dream's going to come true? And all he could do is just weep and cry. And I still remember the sound of his cries coming up out of this pit that we had dug for him. And the laugh, like the joking became really uncomfortable for me. It was like I didn't know, I just felt really uneasy. And this guilt just came over me. Like, we can't, no, he's our brother. We can't do this. And as I was thinking this, some camels with some Ishmaelites were coming through. And they were heading south to Egypt. And so I had an idea. I said, guys, I just didn't know if I could live with myself if we killed him. So I said, let's sell him to these guys. He can go away. We'll never see him again. Then we won't have to feel guilty that we killed him, but we'll still be rid of him. And so that's what we did. Reuben was still gone. He had to tend the flocks that he was watching. And so we sold him to these Ishmaelites. And I still remember them carrying him away as he kicked and screamed for his dad. It was a long walk home that day. I had never had such a quiet, silent walk with my brothers before. And it was a long one. It took us a while. But when we came home, the only conversation we really had was the cover-up. How are we going to cover this up? And so we decided we killed an animal, put some blood on his cloak, and we got the story together that all of us knew all the details of, so that we could all make sure that we covered it up, that we all knew the same story, so that Dad wasn't suspicious. So we came home, and Dad came out to us. He was wondering where Joseph was. Have you guys seen my son? Have you seen Joseph? And we said, actually, Dad, something horrible has happened. An animal came, and as Joseph was coming to us, they killed him, and here's what we found. And if Joseph's birth was the happiest day of my dad's life, this day was the worst. I'd never seen such a dark complexion on his face. I'd never seen him so depressed. I'd never seen him so sad. I should mention that their mom, his favorite wife Rachel, had actually died giving birth to her second son Benjamin, who was our youngest brother. He was just a little tyke at this point. And so with Joseph gone, my dad had lost his favorite wife and his favorite son. And nothing was the same after that. The little amount of affection he did have for us was completely gone. We were always wondering if he would blame us. I don't think he ever did, but he was just so disconnected. And so every ounce of love and affection he did have was just poured into Benjamin. Because Benjamin represented everything that he had lost, and he saw was the only thing that he had left. And at first, Reuben was mad, and he wanted to tell Dad what happened. But Simeon and Levi, they threatened everyone. And so we kept quiet, and we never talked about it again. And at first I thought about it every day, and I couldn't sleep. But eventually, you just get used to life. I don't know if you've ever done something that when you do it, you know, I'm going to have to live with this the rest of my life. Right when it happens, you know, I'm never going to forget this This is going to be stuck in my memory, and I'm going to think about this every day. Eventually, at least for me, you kind of get used to that. Every time I would look at Benjamin, I would see Joseph. And so I didn't really spend much time with him because my shame and our shame kept us quiet. It kept us silent. So years go by, like 15, 17 years, something like that. And times got really, really tough. Like big famine, the cattle are all dying, and we can't trade with anybody for food because all of the resources we had were based on the need for food, grain, and there was no rain. So my dad sent us down to Egypt, where he had heard apparently that there was food. And so me and my 10 brothers, or my 9 brothers, went down together. And we'd never really been to such a big city. We'd never been down to, Egypt is the biggest country in the world. Like this is huge. So we go down, we bring money with us, and we just want to get enough food to hold us over. And we figure out where we're supposed to go buy food. Apparently they had stocked up lots and lots of grain, and they were just selling it hand over fist. And so we wait in line for a long, long time. And we see people go in and come out, and it seemed like a pretty normal process. And then it was our turn. We go in and we enter the hall of this guy who he wasn't Pharaoh, but he may as well have been Pharaoh. They call him Zarephath-Paneah. That was his name, and he was like the second in command or something like that. And we bow down to him. We are very courteous, very respectful, and we're just like everybody else. We're coming from a distant land, and then he starts, through an interpreter, he starts to, because we're Hebrews, we speak a different language, he starts to ask us questions, where we're from, how many brothers do we have, what about our dad, and we're just answering these questions, and all of a sudden he accuses us of being spies. I didn't know if somebody had done something. We're all bowed down. I'm looking over like, did you do something? Did you say something? What's going on? What's this guy thinking? And he just is like laying into us. He's mad. And we're there with our faces to the ground. And before we know it, he just really quickly says, throw him in jail. And I'm laying down on the ground. Some guard picks me up, grabs me, puts my hands behind my back, and all 10 of us go straight into a cell. For 3 days. We have the money. We're just like everybody else. And all I really wanted was to be able to do something for my dad. I knew I could never make up for him losing Joseph. But I thought maybe if we were really in need of food, maybe if we brought him back this food, maybe that would count for something. Maybe I could at least make up for it a little bit. Maybe that would change the way he saw us. And here we were in a jail cell. This is great. So 3 days go by, and Zarephath-Paneah, he comes to our jail cell himself with an interpreter, and we're arguing. And he comes up and he says, I have a deal to make with you. You told me you have a younger brother who you didn't bring with you. To prove that you're not spies, I want you to bring him down with you so that I know that you're telling the truth. And we looked at each other instantly and we go, dude, that's not going to happen. Our dad's never going to let that fly. He's lost the son that he cares about the most. And so this son, he's all he has left. And he told us that. And he goes, and then Zarephath says, oh, well, if you want your food, if you want if you want my favor, if you want to see me again, then you got to bring him with you. And then one of my brothers realized the irony in this. We had not talked about this for decades. But he goes, so we sell Joseph into Egypt, and now we have to bring Benjamin here ourselves. Surely God, or the gods, or whoever is punishing us for doing what we did to Joseph. He sees this as real funny, and now he's going to make us pay for it. We had someone else take Joseph away. Now we have to bring Benjamin down here ourselves. And we just started to argue about this. So luckily, he made a deal with us. Somehow he had some sort of favor on us. He took our money and he gave us grain, and we took it back home. But when we got back home, we realized that the money that we had paid him was in the sacks that held the food that he gave us. And I didn't know who did this, but it was not good. And I was like, we're already on the wrong foot with this guy. Who did this? And there seemed to be so much mystery surrounding this. And our dad was really mad. I thought we were doing something good, and we only made him even worse, even more mad. And he refused to send Benjamin. There was no way that was happening. So we ended up like, okay, let's just eat the food that we have, and we'll see what happens. So a couple months go by, and pretty much all the food's gone. And we start talking amongst ourselves. There's really nothing. We either all die, or we take Benjamin with us back down to Egypt. And so Reuben goes in to talk to Dad. We kind of have this little intervention with him. Dad, I know how much you love Benjamin, but we have to take him with us. And he just said, no. If I lose Benjamin, I will have nothing left. Oh, and I forgot to mention that as leverage, as collateral, Zarephath-Paneah in Egypt, he kept one of our brothers, Simeon. So if it weren't bad enough that we brought the grain back and we somehow deceived this guy by getting our money back too, one of our brothers was there waiting for us. So he was going to basically trade Simeon for Benjamin when we brought him down. So we had lost one already, so our credibility wasn't that high, and he was not having any of it. So I went in and I pleaded with Dad. And I said, Dad, I swear on my life that I will protect Benjamin. I swear. This man said that if we don't bring him, that we will never see him again. We don't have a choice, Dad. And so after hours and hours of conversation, I finally talked him in to letting Benjamin come with us. I basically laid down my life saying I will do whatever it takes to protect him. And our conversation just left him numb. His face was just blank. He didn't even have any emotion left. He was preparing himself for his only favorite son left to never come back. And so we went down to Egypt again. And this time, though, we were a little bit smarter. We brought some gifts. We got together everything that we could, and we wanted to put a show on. We wanted to make sure that he knew. We brought back the money that had somehow made it back into our sacks, and we wanted to make it known that we were not spies, that we just want some food. We just want to have our own life in Canaan. And we're not here to threaten anybody. So we bow down before this man, and we present all these gifts to him. And apparently he accepted them, and then he wanted to have a meal with us. So we had this feast, and you should have seen the way, forget utensils. We were just clamoring it in our mouths. We hadn't eaten a good meal in weeks. But Benjamin, when he came down, Benjamin got like 5 times as much food as the rest of us. And here's the other weird thing. When he sat us all down, we sat, like Egyptians didn't want to eat with us. It's like a religious thing or something. He sat us down in our birth order. And we're like, how did he know? And Benjamin, at the very end, he has this mountain of food that he's never going to be able to even make a dent in. And this man comes up to Joseph across the table and says, "Are you Benjamin?" And with like a fistful of food in his mouth, just nods his head and he says, "May God bless you." And then he walks off and he eats by himself. So everything went smoothly. We brought Benjamin. Here he is. Here's our token. Like, we're not lying to you. We're not cheating. Here's our little brother. So he gave us a grain. We gave him the money back. We gave him extra money. Like, here's an extra payment. And we went on our way. But we weren't a 3-hour journey out of the city until the stampede of chariots comes around us, and we are stopped in this cloud of dust of these men that were blocking our way. And they say, "One of you stole something from Zarephath-Paneah. One of you stole his silver cup that he uses for divination." And we're looking around, what more do you want from us? We came down here to get food, and you keep accusing us of this stuff. And I said, you know what? I'm fed up with this. Whoever stole this from you, may they be killed if they're found out to be the one that's done it. Because I was so sure, why would we do that? Why would we steal from this man who could clearly have our heads chopped off at any moment? And so we said, search the sacks. You're not going to find anything. And to my horror, they ripped open Joseph's sack and out spilled this beautiful, gleaming silver cup. And me and my 9 brothers looked. Benjamin had no idea what was going on. We looked around in sheer terror. This is the worst thing that could have happened. And Benjamin was just as confused as the rest of us. We knew it wasn't him. So they take us into custody and they take us back to this man. Right when we thought we were scotch-free, right when I was thinking maybe if we'll be given credit for taking care of my dad's favorite son. Maybe finally he'll at least be able to smile at us. Maybe, if only a little bit, I can make up for it. So we go back, and we are pushed down into the ground before this man, and all I can see is his feet. And I make our case, and I say, "Sir, we just came down here to get some food, and he wanted to take Benjamin as his slave. Since Benjamin is the one that supposedly stole the cup, he wanted to take Benjamin as his slave, and I pled with him because I pledged my life instead of Benjamin's, and I said, please, if you're going to take anyone, take me. Take me. I will go. At least just let him go home. If he does not go home, my father will die. My father he'll be so depressed that he'll either commit suicide or he'll leave. He'll be so stressed out that in his old age he'll just give up. You cannot take him. If you take anyone, take me instead." And we had this whole conversation about how I told him about how he had already lost one son. My father's already lost his favorite son. If he loses his other favorite son, then he'll never recover. And with my face in the dirt, I heard someone crying. And I had heard this cry before. At first I didn't know what it was. But then I remembered eating lunch and laughing with my brothers. And all these years, this cry that came up from this pit that we had dug, haunting me. And I looked up, and with tears flowing down his face, beneath all the Egyptian makeup and the whole thing, I saw my little brother. And he said, "I am Joseph." And I forgot about this whole situation for only one moment. And I was in this state where all I could do was look at his innocent face and see the boy whose face I had longed to see all these years later, who, if I could go back, I would look at him and I would say, "It's okay, let's take you back to Dad." And then I remembered and I looked around and I realized the situation that we were in, and I was terrified because I realized that everything that he told us came true. And if he wanted to, he could exact revenge on us this very moment. He could make us the laughing stock of all the world, and he could kill us right then and right there. And he had every right to. With one sweep of his hand, our lives could be over like that. And we deserved it after everything that we had done to him. And I cannot describe to you the feeling that I felt when he did that. When he revealed himself to us. And we looked around and we couldn't believe it. I never in a million years would I have thought this would have happened. And so and he's just sobbing. He's just sobbing. He told all of his guards to leave. And I thought, okay, well, I guess he's going to do it himself. And so I just bowed my head. And I waited. My hands open, waited for him to come, plunge a knife into me or something. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was coming. And he walked up to me. And he said, "Don't be mad at yourself. You didn't send me here. God sent me here." And I thought, he began to tell me what happened, how we sold him to the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites sold him to this man named Potiphar, who was like a military guy. He got accused of rape. Or he rose to prominence in his home. He got accused of rape, and then he went to jail. And then he rose to prominence in there, and then he started interpreting people's dreams, and eventually he ends up before Pharaoh. He interprets Pharaoh's dream, and Pharaoh makes him second in command. And so he says, "God made all this happen. You didn't send me here, God did." And I thought, no! God doesn't do things like that. God doesn't sell people into slavery, Joseph. You're mistaken. I sent you here. I am guilty. Take my life now. It's yours to do with what you please. But he did not raise his hand against me. He just said, "I know. But what you meant for evil, God used for good." And that's when I began to learn about and to see the surprising mercy of this God that Joseph spoke of. And then Joseph said, "How is my father?" he told me he's okay. We bring Benjamin back, and he said, I want you all to come live with me, and I will give you as much as you could have ever imagined in Egypt. And I just fell before him because I deserved nothing. But he gave me everything. I deserved nothing. I didn't deserve to stand on the dirt that my feet rested upon, but here I was standing before the man that I intended to kill, to do away with, to make disappear. And now he wanted to spend the rest of my life with me. He gave me everything when I deserved nothing. So I very quickly thought, no, is there anything I could do to make this up to you? I can't even come close to imagining how much you've been through or how much we've done to you. But is there anything that I can do? And he said, you can come and live with me. Don't be mad with yourself. God has blessed me with a family. And the God of our father and grandfather and great-grandfather, He has seen me through these years. All you can do is receive what I want to give you. And so while I wish I could go back to that day when I watched him scream and kick and cry as he rode on a camel away from us, never to be seen again, I'm beginning to learn, with all the abundance that I now have, that this God my Father serves is not like other gods. He does not exact vengeance on the base of merit or dismerit. He simply gives. And so all I am, and all I have to give you, is a story of a man, and along with my brothers, our story is simply that we tried to do an awful thing, but God turned it into something good. And now I'm receiving a mercy that is bigger and freer than anything I could have ever gained by making it up to my dad. So I don't know if you've ever done anything that you wish you could go back and change. But I'm beginning to learn that there's a love that covers over a multitude of sins. And there's a grace that even in my evil is making a path for something beautiful. That's my story. I'd be honored to pray with you. God,